Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Collision 2024. This event is coming in at an S+ tier, and you don't really have too many invaders coming in, but pretty much every single top NA talent is showing up at this event, and it's looking to be a banger. For our top 16 seeds, you got Lima, Peanut, Mars, and Onin in 13th, DD, Mutes, Cola, and Meister in 9th. In 7th, you're going to have DeBuzz and Riddles. 5th is MKLeo and Shattuck. 4th is Light. 3rd is Zomba. 2nd is Spargo. And projected to win the entire thing is Tweak. And before we get into the top 32, there's a couple upsets that I think could happen beforehand, and I just want to go over all of the possibilities. Our first matchup is going to be Tweak versus Omega, and I would definitely expect Tweak to win this one. It's a really tough matchup for Joker, and Tweak is also very clearly good at it, as he's beaten MKLeo, I believe, in their last 3 encounters that were Diddy Kong Joker, so you would definitely expect Tweak to win that one. Then you're going to have Onin versus Tilde, and I think Tilde is going to make the upset here. Falco does really well versus Steve in a couple aspects of the matchup. Overall, I would say it's probably even maybe slight Steve favor, but you're going to have the Reflector, which is super good. It's really easy to deal with Minecart and down air that way, and you also have a really good tool at breaking the block with down tilt, and Falco's advantage state is just really strong as always. But of course, it's still Steve. You could still die in one hit, so nothing is free, especially against a player of Onin's caliber, but I think Tilde has what it takes. Then you're going to have Riddles versus Sen, and I would expect Riddles to win this one. I think Kazi does pretty well versus Ness, because Ness, he wants to press buttons against you, he wants to be up close and personal, and that's the thing that Kazuya loves. And then finally, you're going to have Meister versus Luis, and I think Luis has a very real chance in this matchup. I think Palutena does fairly well versus Game & Watch, and Luis does have a lot of reps versus Monty, a majority of them going into his favor, but Meister did kind of body Raflo at Genesis, and I would say that Raflo is the best Palutena player in the world. He's also got a ton of experience versus Chag, so you would still favor Meister, but I think it's like a 55-45. Luis definitely has a shot to take him out. Our next top seed is going to be Light, and his first opponent is likely going to be up against Chunky Kong. I think Chag has a real possibility of making that upset as well, and Chag has beaten Light before, but off of their form, I would still expect Light to win it. I think Light's also very good at the Palutena matchup. Who knows? Chag is that guy sometimes, but assuming it is Chunky Kong, I would still expect Light to win. It's a classic situation where DK is just so good in the advantage that you're going to be getting a lot of kills off the top, and also a lot of kills off the bottom, probably because spiking Fox is very easy with Donkey Kong. You also have that sword-like back air, but Fox is still Fox in the advantage state. Now, another thing in DK's favor is that you really can't edgeguard Donkey Kong. You're not going to have a traditional spike with Fox, and obviously it's not impossible. You can still go for a back air or a drag down forward air, but I feel like Light is going to be prone to the ledge trapping, which is still a very good thing because it's Light on the ledge, but that could be the way that Chunky Kong gets into the game. I'm saying it's a possibility, but Light should still be favored. Then you're going to have Lima versus Talking Ben, and both of these guys are coming into this weekend pretty hot. Lima getting a top 8 at Levitational, top 4 at Levitational, and Talking Ben getting 5th place at Cirque de CFL, so they're both playing exceptionally well. I would expect Lima to win it just because I think Bayo Steve is slightly in Bayo's favor, and by that I mean it's like one of the most even matchups ever, but if I had to give to someone, I would give it to Bayo just because her mobility is so much better. But overall, it's going to be a really close matchup because those guys are just like exceptional lately. Then you're going to have MKLeo versus likely Andres FN, and Andres FN has been known to make a couple upsets when he travels, but I don't think it's going to be over Leo. I think Joker just does really well versus Terry and all the FGC characters for that matter, and it's probably going to be the Terry from Andres event that seems who he seems to be favoriting recently, so I'm going to expect Leo to win that just because I like the matchup, and also Leo has been cooking recently. We get to see him at his first event after King Kong. Maybe this streak's going to start, who knows, and our final matchup is going to be Mars versus WebJP, and if an upset is going to happen from one of these top seeds or to one of these top seeds, I think it is probably going to be WebJP over Mars, just because I think Sheik Zero Suit is a really good matchup for Sheik. Not unwinnable for Zero Suit by any means, and Mars is a very talented player, but he didn't look amazing at King Kong. I'm pretty confident he's going to have a bounce back, but is the bounce back good enough to beat WebJP? I think so, but Web is definitely a scary pick. Next up is going to be Zomba as our top seed, and I don't think he's going to play Rivers. I think Rivers is going to get upset by Super Semi, and there is a very real possibility of Zomba getting upset here. I think Young Link does very well versus Rob. You're getting clipped by a majority of the projectiles that he's going to be throwing out. The kill confirms are really easy on the character because of his big body. Now, gonna give Zomba the benefit of the doubt just because fundamentally I think Zomba is the better player. He's one of the best fundamental players in the entire world, but Super Semi is a very, very scary one, and if he upsets Zomba, I would not be surprised at all. Then you're gonna have Cola versus MVD, maybe Cola versus Beastly, because Beastly's really good, but I don't think Snake Diddy Kong is super good for Diddy, so probably Cola MVD, and the record between them is going to be 1-1. The last time they played did go to MVD's favor, and it was at Collision, so that means that he is destined to win this one. MVD's gonna win it. Then you're gonna have Shattuck versus Icy Mist, and this one is tricky because Shattuck Icy Mist is 3-0 in Icy Mist's favor, but Shattuck beat Yara at Genesis, so Shattuck is going to win it because he beat Yara at Genesis. It's just transitive property, but this is a very bad draw for Shattuck. Not only just personally, she's just done very well versus him, but Samus Corrin is definitely in Samus's favor, one of Corrin's weaker matchups, and I'm curious to see how Shattuck overcomes it. Again, since he was so good versus Yara at Genesis, actually winning that set, I think I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but it's definitely scary. And then finally, you're going to have Didi versus Jackal, and I do think that Didi is going to win this one, but Jackal is just one of the biggest wildcards in the entire Smash Ultimate community. It feels like all the Wolf players are, and he does have to play Danny before that, so Didi has the potential of falling to one of these Wolves, because when the Wolf players are cooking, they are cooking. And our final part of the bracket before the top 32 is going to have Spargo as our top seed, and his qualifying opponent is likely going to be Cosmos or Goblin, and I would expect him to beat both of those opponents. Whenever it comes down to a Sword Ditto, the fundamentally better player is pretty much always going to win, and you can say that for a lot of matchups in Smash Ultimate, but it's especially true for the Sword ones because it's all about your spacing, it's all about your timing. You don't really have the benefit of having this massive disjoint because your opponent also has a massive disjoint, and when it's in a situation like that, I just think Spargo comes out on top against literally every single player in the world, though Cosmos did look pretty good at Cirque, so don't count him out completely. Then you're going to have Peanut versus Anathema, and I would expect Peanut to win this one. He beat Zomba twice at the Cirque du CFL weekend, as well as taking his set off Anathema himself. Mega Man Rob, which is a really bad matchup for Rob. Not a winnable because it's Rob, but I would expect Peanut to win. Then you're going to have DeBuzz versus Chase, and I would favor DeBuzz here. Chase definitely has a chance of taking him out, but DeBuzz is good versus Palutena. I wouldn't say that Rosalina is particularly good versus Palutena, but just the way that DeBuzz is able to play around that character's win condition is just super good, specifically the kill, so he should be able to take that. And finally, you're going to have Mutace versus SkyJ, and I cannot wait to see this matchup. I honestly have zero clue of who's going to win it because you have Mutace, the spacing god, versus SkyJ, the overshooting god. He is going to be committing super hard, and if Mutace is ready for it, he's ready for the side piece, he plays patiently, he is going to win, and I think he's going to do that because he played amazing at Cirque, so I'm going to have Mutace winning, but SkyJ is just such a scary opponent at all times. And now that we've gone over all of that, we get to the juicy part of the bracket, the top 32, and our first matchup is likely going to be Tweak versus Onan. I do think that Tilde is going to upset Onan, though I'm not like super certain. It's not like 100% Tilde is going to win it. Onan definitely still has a chance, and if I was Tweak, I would definitely prefer Tilde there because he did beat him at LMBM, even though the set was super competitive, and historically Tweak is just not very good versus Steve. I would say that's probably his biggest weakness as a player is the Steve matchup, and maybe he's been working on that. Actually, I know he's been working on that, so maybe he's figured something out where he's a lot better this time around. But if Tweak and Onan were to play, I would expect Onan to win that one, but because I think Tilde is going to beat Onan and I think Tweak will beat Tilde, I'm going to have Tweak going through on the winner's side. But if this matchup happens, Tweak fans, you should be shaking in your boots. Then you're going to have Riddles versus Meister, and I'm honestly not super confident on who's going to win this one just because Meister does win their last encounter, but prior to that, Riddles was just so good in the head-to-head that I am going to say Riddles takes it, but it's a very close matchup, like mostly sets in the top 32 are. And then finally, they're going to have Tweak versus Riddles, and this is not going to be a close matchup, at least if we go off their set at Genesis, because Riddles got mollywopped, like respectively. I'm not even trashing Riddles there, he just objectively got mollywopped. It was a really convincing set from Tweak, and I guarantee you Riddles is going to have adaptations. He might even bust out the Terry, but Tweak was just so convincing in that last encounter that I think he's got it. Next up is going to be Light versus Mars, and this one is really tricky. As you can see, these guys have played a whole lot of times, and a bunch of those sets are back and forth. There's a couple misreported sets here as well, because I know Light won at least 2 or 3 sets in between the Mash Harder and Smash Con set, so they've been playing a lot. They're training partners. They know how they're going to play one of the most coin-flipping matchups in Smash Ultimate. I'm going to give it to Light just because he won the Invitational. Even though he wasn't great at Cirque, he's still clearly playing very well, and Mars was amazing at King Kong, and I hate to harp on a player for one event, but that's all we've seen from Mars in 2024, so it's really all I have to go from. So I'm going to say Light wins that. Then you're going to have MKLeo versus Cola, and luckily the stats are a lot nicer than me on this one because it is 7-0 in MKLeo's favor. But even with that in mind, I still think Cola has a very real chance of winning this one. He's got a lot of experience versus Omega, and a majority of those sets he is coming out on top. It could be the Aegis from Leo, but to be honest, I think it's just going to be Joker from him, and I do think he's going to win that set. And then you're going to have Light versus MKLeo, and this is another super coin flippy matchup, but I'm gonna go with Leo on this one because he won King Kong. Even though Light won Invitational, he ends up getting 17th at Cirque, which just isn't a very good performance. Now, his losses at Cirque were very reasonable. He ends up losing to Apple Wiz in the winner's side, and that's a tough matchup for Fox, and Shootone in the loser side, and Shootone's just a really good player. So it's not like he was just playing super bad, but Leo looked so good at King Kong, and that's the last time I've seen him. So for the coin flip, I'm gonna say it favors Leo. Next up is going to be Spargo versus Mia, and Spargo is definitely going to be favored in this one, just like how Mia was favored versus Pibna, and how Shootone was favored versus Pibna, and how Zomba was... You get what I'm saying at this point? I have no idea how Pibna is going to do at this event. Is he going to be able to replicate his performance from Cirque? We're just going to have to wait and see. I'm going to give Spargo the benefit of the doubt. He's in contention for best in the world. He should win, but all of those guys should have beat Pibna as well, so I really just don't know. Then you're going to have Dabuz versus Mudace, and I'm still going to favor Dabuz to win this, even though Mudace wins it at Cirque to CFL, because overall it's still heavily in Dabuz's favor, going 7-3, and that's including the Cirque to CFL loss, but it's a lot closer than it would have been last time. I think Mudace has a very real shot, and he was electric at Cirque, but Dabuz was pretty good there as well, so we're going to have to wait and see, but the numbers are favoring Dabuz, just like the numbers are heavily favoring Spargo in the Dabuz-Spargo matchup. He just wins it pretty much every single time. I think Aegis does really well versus Rosalina, and that's really all I have to say. And our final topic qualifier through the winner's side is going to have Zomba Lima as our first matchup, and on paper, you would expect Lima to win this one. Rob Bayonetta is heavily in Bayo's favor. Now it's Rob. He can win any matchup, but Bayo wins it a majority of the time. But in practice, it's going to be in Zomba's favor. They played twice, and both of those sets ended up going Zomba's way. Now, they haven't played in quite some time. Their last set was at Apex, which was a while ago, and both players have gotten way better since then. I think 2023 was kind of both of their glow-up years, so I don't really know who's going to win it, but I'm going to go with Zomba based off the history. Then you're going to have Shattuck versus Didi, and it's probably going to be the Pokemon trainer coming out from Didi here. I don't think that Corn Steve is amazing for Steve. It's probably more realistically an even matchup, and I would say the Pokemon trainer does slightly edge out versus Corn because Squirtle is just a broken character. Now, with that in mind, I'm still going to go with Shattuck to win it because Didi is such an unknown, and we just saw Shattuck be unreal at Invitational and Cirque to CFL, so I'm going to pick him to win that one, and I'm also going to pick him to make the upset over Zomba. I do think that Corn beats Rob, and they've played 4 times before. It's going to be 2-2 overall. Shattuck winning their last set at Luminosity makes moves Miami, and it's the same thing I literally just said. Shattuck was just so good last weekend, and Zomba wasn't necessarily bad last weekend. He got 2 5th places, but was it better than Shattuck? No, and because of that, I think Shattuck's going to get him this time. And y'all know the drill at this point. We're not going to be doing the loser side matchups just because a majority of these aren't even going to happen. So I've instead taken the 20 players that are most likely to top 8, and I've given them the percentages. You're going to... Oh, guys were not supposed to see that. That's a little embarrassing. But you have Tweak, MK, Leo, Spargo, and Shattuck. These are my picks to go through on the winner side. Then you're going to have Light, Mudace, Zomba, and Dabuz. And those are my picks to go through on the loser side. I think Light is going to top 8 through this part of the bracket. And I will say Didi is a bit of a tricky opponent if he does end up running into Didi. And it could be Tilde as well, who's also a very scary opponent. And Lima as well, but I'm pretty confident that he will beat Lima just because he beat him at Invitational. I think Fox was very well versus Bale, but Tilde, very good versus Fox. I also think Falco's pretty good versus Fox. Steve, obviously very good versus Fox, but the way that Light played at the Invitational versus me and Steve, it gives me confidence that he should be able to take up the DD Steve, and since I think DD is the most likely opponent, I'm going to have Light getting through on the top 8. Then you're going to have Mudace, and I think Mudace is just going to beat Riddles. Historically, he's been very good in the head-to-head. I believe it's 3-1 in his favor, but definitely don't quote me on that one. You're going to have Zomba top 8ing through this part of the bracket because it could be Cola, it could be Mars, it could be Skyjet, it could be Anathema. I think this is the part of the bracket with the highest amount of variance, and if Cola ends up making it, I would probably favor Cola versus Zomba. Just historically, he's been very good there, but Mars is a very real chance, Skyjet is a very real chance, Anathema is a very real chance, and I would favor him versus all of those other players. So I'm taking the field here, and I'm saying that Zomba beats the field, but not Cola, so hopefully Cola doesn't get there and prove me wrong. And then finally, you're going to have Dabuz. He just has a very good record versus Meister, and I'm pretty confident he'll be owning as well because he's just really good versus Steve. Then you got the wild cards, Mars and Didi. I don't know how these guys are going to do. They might top 8. They might get last. I would highly doubt they get last, but they're going to perform well. Is it well enough to get top 8? We're going to have to wait and see. Then you're going to have Cola, Meister, Onin, and Lima. And they're in a little bit of a tier above everyone else at 50% because I think they're just a little bit more likely to get into this top 8. We've just seen more from them on a more consistent level. Maybe not recently from Onin, but I still have a lot of faith in that player. And the also very real chance with Peanut, Tilde, Anathema, Skyjay, and Talking Ben. And maybe Peanut should be moved up to this tier after his run at Cirque, but I don't want to base everything just off one run. I'm going to wait for the second result. And if Peanut gives him here, which he definitely can, then I'll start putting him in the 60%, maybe even the 75% chance here. And the last one, it's the Webathon. It is time for WebJP to get his first top 8 at a major, and the only reason that he's not in this upper tier is because he just hasn't gotten a top 8 at a major. I don't want to say he's a guarantee, but this kid is so good, and I feel like there's a couple pieces missing, and the second he gets them, he's just going to farm. I also want to give an honorable mention to Super Semi because that guy is very good. And we have arrived at what you have all been waiting for, the top 8. And we're not going to be using the projected top 8 just because I want to use the top 8 that I think is going to happen based off the bracket. But I think they did a really good job with this seeding. They did everything correctly, in my opinion. This is exactly how I would have seeded the top 8. So good job. You get my proof block thumbs up. But we're going to be going on to the Google Sheets that the lovely ICOOKIEMONSTERZ made for us. Their link will be down below. And our winner side matches are Tweak, MKLeo, and Spargo Shattuck. And in the loser side, you got Light Mutace and Zomba the Buzz. Now, for MKLeo Tweak, you have to favor Tweak on this one. These guys haven't played too much, but all of their recent encounters have been going into Tweak's favor, and every single character in MKLeo's repertoire does not do super well versus Diddy Kong, namely Joker. That is a struggle matchup for the character, and I will say, Leo looked very good at their set at LMBM, but Tweak still ended up winning it, and he also looked very good in there, so until Leo gets the dub, which I think could happen here, you kind of have to go with Tweak for this one, and then you're going to have Spargo Shattuck, and this is very tricky. They've only played once at Let's Make Moves Miami, and I'm not going to lie, Spargo kind of bodied him, and I don't think he's going to body him this time around. I'm very confident he's not going to body him this time around, but you still have to go with Spargo here. He's just the more proven player at this point, but Shattuck is coming into this event extremely hot, and I can easily see him taking this set, but it also should be noted that I think Aegis does really well versus Corrin, so it's probably going to be the Aegis coming out from Spargo, but it could be the Cloud. Maybe he forces the Ditto. I doubt it, but regardless of the character, I think Spargo is going to take it by just a little bit. In the loser side, you're going to have Light versus Mutace and Zomba versus the Buzz. And I'm going to be fairly brief for these ones because I'm pretty confident who's going to win them. I think that Light is going to beat Mutace. He has won their last, believe it's 3 encounters if you pull it up right there. And it should be noted, Mutace was able to beat the Buzz, who he also has a very bad record with recently at Cirque du CFL. So he's overcoming some bad matchups. It's not impossible, but you got to go with Light here. He's won their last 3 encounters. None of them have even gone to Game 5. And the only time that Mutace beat Light was at Genesis, where he was playing like Jesus himself. And for Zomba the Buzz, Zomba has won his last 6 encounters versus the Buzz. Now, it should be noted that the Buzz still holds that record overall. It is 12-8 in the Buzz's favor, but the fact that Zomba has won 6, I think, is very telling of how this match is going to go. And in the losers quarters, you're going to have MKLeo versus Light and Shattuck versus Zomba. These are 2 matches that I've already talked about. And MKLeo Light, I've already established, very coin flipping matchup. And if it landed on heads the first time, that means it's bound to land on tails the second time because that's how flipping a coin works. Everybody knows that. Then you're going to have Shattuck versus Zomba. And I'm still going to lead towards Shattuck here just because Corrin does well versus Rob, but such a coin flipping matchup. I really don't know who's going to win this one, and I hope we get to see it twice because I know it's going to be a banger. So we got our top 4. Tweak Spargo in the winner's side and Light Shattuck in the loser's side. Now, Tweak Spargo, it feels like they always end up in the winner's finals whenever I do these videos, but whatever, no bias. They haven't played since, I believe it was King Kong, or not King Kong, Terra, and Tweak did end up taking that set. They're always very competitive between these 2 guys. I think on paper, I would favor Diddy Kong into all of Spargo's characters, definitely versus Cloud, probably versus Aegis, and probably versus Corrin. I'm not as confident on those ones, but Cloud is Spargo's best character. If you can get him off the Cloud, that is ideal, and because of that, I'm going to pick Tweak to get into the grand finals. Then you're going to have Light versus Shattuck, and I'm going to favor Light on this one, but it should be noted that Shattuck played so well at their set at Lit Invitational. He managed to take it to a Game 5, despite this matchup being really bad for Corrin, but Light ultimately still won the set, and matchup-wise, it's definitely in his favor, so I think he's going to get to the losers finals versus Spargo, and yet another coin flipping matchup. I mean, we have a lot of these in the current state of Smash Ultimate just because the level of play is so high right now, and I don't really know who's going to win this one, but you do have Light being a lot better in their more recent encounters, even though Spargo won their last encounter, so I'm going to say that Light takes it, and in the grand finals, you're going to have Tweak versus Light, the champion of Let's Make, or Luminosity Makes Big Moves, and the champion of the Lit Invitational. Who's going to come out on top? And it is a tri-state event, which means Tweak's got the buff, and he is going to be your back-to-back tri-state champion. I mean, he didn't win Collision last year, but 2 tri-state events in a row. Tweak's going to win them. And with that, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the sport. It's been absolutely unreal as of late. If there's anything left out, got wrong, or if you just want to say hi, leave a comment down below. Be sure to sub while you're down there, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye!